Hello, welcome to Nightline. I'm Raymond Go. The headlines today. The young Pertuan Agong urges leaders to pay attention to people's demands. An UMNO Pass alliance a threat to unity and race relations, says Prime Minister. Thanks for joining us. National leaders must listen and take into account the demands of the people when drawing up policies and programs for them. In his inaugural speech for the opening of the second term of the 14th Parliament in Kuala Lumpur on Monday, Yang di-Pertuan Agong Al-Sultan Abdullah Riayatuddin Al-Mustafa Billah Shah said this was because the people now wanted a responsible government which listened to their opinions and aspirations.
Rakyat hari ini bukan sahaja mahukan pembangunan, bahkan sebuah kerajaan yang bersih, telus, bertanggungjawab serta mendaulatkan undang-undang untuk membawa negara ke tahap yang lebih baik. Rakyat juga mahu kerajaan yang mendengar pandangan dan aspirasi mereka, maka adalah wajar setiap pemimpin-pemimpin mengambil kira tuntutan tersebut semasa merangka sebarang dasar dan program.
Also gracing the occasion was Raja Permaisuri Agong Tunku Ampuan Hajah Aziza Aminah Maimunah Iskandaria Almarhum Sultan Iskandar. The king also reminded members of parliament to embrace integrity and other good values while working towards developing the nation.
Beta suka menzahirkan penghargaan atas usaha kerajaan memperkenalkan Pelan Anti Rasuah Nasional dan mengubah undang-undang berkaitan untuk memperkukuhkan tadbir urus dan diharap dapat memperbaiki kedudukan negara dalam indeks persepsi rasuah.
Al-Sultan Abdullah added it is imperative for the nation to combat corruption as it would burden the people and destroy the country's foundation. Meanwhile, Al-Sultan Abdullah's casual remark about the Parliament's 60th anniversary this year, which he jokingly compared with his age, drew laughter from the packed chamber.
Relax. Ahli yang berhormat, pada tahun ini Parlimen Malaysia akan menyambut ulang tahun yang ke-60. Sama umur dengan saya. Beta berharap semua pihak harus menjunjung prinsip demokrasi berparlimen agar ia terus subur dan utuh.
Earlier, the king livened up the mood in the House by casually inviting all members of parliament to sit down before starting his speech, prompting smiles and giggles from the audience. Earlier, Al-Sultan Abdullah's arrival at Parliament Square was greeted by Prime Minister Tun Dr. Mahadev Mohamad and wife Tun Dr. Siti Hasmah Muhammad Ali, as well as Deputy Prime Minister Dato Sri Dr. Wan Aziza Wan Ismail. Also present to greet the king and his consort Tunku Ampuan Hajah Aziza Aminah Maimunah were Dewan Rakyat Speaker Dato Muhammad Arif Mat Yusof and Dewan Negara Speaker Tan Sri S.A. Vigneswaran. The event marked the first time the king officiated the ceremony after being sworn in as the 16th Yang di-Pertuan Agong on January 31st. His Majesty was then escorted to the royal dais and the national anthem Negaraku was played, followed by a 21-gun salute. After the ceremony, Al-Sultan Abdullah was led to the royal chamber for a photo session before being escorted to the Dewan Rakyat to deliver his royal address. The Dewan Rakyat will convene for 30 days until April 11th, followed by Dewan Negara for 18 days from April 22nd till May 9th. Once launched, Parliament's session will see discussions on various major issues, including the Malaysia Agreement 1963 and the government's move to amend Article 1, subsection 2 of the Federal Constitution to return the original rights of Sabah and Sarawak. Prime Minister Tun Dr. Mahadev Mohamad has said that the UMNO PAS coalition is an attempt to alienate Malays from other races. He pointed out that his Pakatan Harapan PH coalition is also looking after the interests of the Malays, but stressed that it was not at the expense of the other races.
We are also looking after the interests of the Malays, accepting that we don't shout. They try to separate Malays from other races. That is very bad for a multiracial country. The interests of the Malays will be looked after by PH. We want to make sure that it is not only equal but fair.
The Prime Minister was speaking to reporters after the opening of the first meeting of the second session of the 14th Parliament by the Yang di-Pertuan Agong on Monday. UMNO and PAS had recently formed an official alliance to rally Malay support against Pakatan. Several Pakatan leaders have retaliated against the move, claiming that it was an affront to a multiracial society. To a question, Tun Dr. Mahathir said the government will not hinder the PAS-UMNO pact, as Malaysia was a democratic country. On another matter, the Prime Minister said the government will continuously improve on weaknesses in the administration without depending on any quarters. He said the Barisan Nasional should not portray itself as a party which knows everything in resolving the current issues in the country.
Because they had a 60 years lead against us. We are in the first year, not even the first year yet. 2 months more before we become first year.
Tun Dr. Mahathir also called for all quarters to be more patient with the PH government, as many leaders were new to ministerial positions and might sometimes say things that might not reflect well on the coalition. He said that BN's 60 years administration is not an indicator that they are better than Pakatan Harapan's administration, which is only in its 10th month. Meanwhile, Tun Dr. Mahathir was also asked regarding Tunku Mahkota Johor Tunku Ismail Sultan Ibrahim's criticism on Malaysia's decision to accede to the Rome Statute, a treaty governing the International Criminal Court. Tunku Ismail claimed that the treaty would render the Malay ruler's status irrelevant. In a string of tweets, the Johor Crown Prince claimed that he was informed that the rulers were never consulted prior to Malaysia acceding to the Rome Statute.
The MJ claiming that Putrajaya did not consult with Majlis Raja-Raja before acceding to the Rome Statute.
On Sunday, Wisma Putra assured the monarchy's status and position would not be threatened after Malaysia acceded to the Rome Statute. The government is considering introducing a law to deal with racist and sensitive comments on online news portals and social media. Communications and Multimedia Minister Gobind Singh Deo said his ministry had received many complaints regarding inflammatory remarks on social media and news portals which touched on the sensitivities of race, religion and the royal institution.
Saya dalam proses menimbangkan sama ada ataupun tidak satu undang-undang seharusnya digubalkan untuk kita melihat kepada aspek itu, tetapi itu perkara masih dalam pertimbangan, belum dibawa kepada kabinet lagi.
Gobind was commenting on the royal address by the Yang di-Pertuan Agong, who called for stern action to be taken against those who abuse freedom of expression and cause disharmony. The minister said that if portal operators failed to monitor and allowed such comments on their portals, it was feared that these comments could incur the wrath of various parties and cause bigger problems. He also pointed out that the Malaysian Communications and Multimedia Commission, MCMC, found that the comments section of some online news portals were being abused with postings of sensitive comments. Unfortunately, there is no monitoring happening in regards with the situation. Dr. S. Treram of PKR has been retained as the Pakatan Harapan candidate for the Rantau state by-election on April 13th. PKR President Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim said a meeting of the PH Presidential Council chaired by Chairman Tun Dr. Mahadev Mohamad last Saturday had consensus on the selection of Dr. Treram as the PH candidate.
Kerana kawasan-kawasan lain ditandingi oleh orang Melayu, termasuk Port Dickson yang dahulunya, lama sebelumnya adalah India, sekarang saya wakili. Semua pertimbangan ini kita lakukan kerana kita tegak atas prinsip menjaga kepentingan semua kaum, maka kita setuju mencalonkan calon India.
The Rantau by-election has been necessitated by the Federal Court dismissal of an appeal filed by UMNO Deputy President Datuk Sri Muhammad Hassan to set aside the November 16th Seremban Election Court decision declaring his unopposed victory in the 14th general election null and void. In the GE14, Datuk Sri Muhammad was declared the winner of the seat after Dr. S. Treram was prohibited from entering the nomination centre to submit his nomination papers because he did not have a pass issued by the Election Commission. Indonesian Siti Aisyah, one of the accused in the 2017 killing of North Korean leader's half-brother Kim JongNam, has been released from custody after the Shah Alam High Court dropped the murder charge against her. The 26-year-old had been accused of poisoning JongNam with a VX nerve agent, a banned chemical weapon, at KLIA in February 2017. It was a surprise move as the court had on Monday been scheduled to hear the testimony of a Vietnamese co-defendant, 30-year-old Duan Thi Huong, who is still in custody. Indonesia's Foreign Ministry spokesman, Armanata Nasir, said Siti Aisyah's release was the result of government efforts and that preparations were underway to bring her home on Monday night. From the outset of the case, there were suspicions that JongNam was the victim of a plot arranged by 4 North Korean agents who left Malaysia in the hours after the killing, and the 2 women had merely been pawns in a political assassination. The pair had always denied murder, saying they believed that they were taking part in a prank for a reality TV show and were tricked by the North Korean agents who are still at large.
Perasaan saya sangat bahagia, nggak nyangka kalau hari ini hari kebebasan saya. Terima kasih kepada Presiden saya Bapak Jokowi. Terima kasih kepada Bapak Menteri-Menteri. Terima kasih kepada Bapak Kedutaan Indonesia yang telah melantik peguam daripada Malaysia, Mr. Gui dengan Puan Azura. Juga terima kasih kepada pemerintah di Malaysia membebaskan saya.
The women were charged under Section 302 of the Penal Code, which provides a mandatory death sentence upon conviction. South Korea has accused the North of ordering the hit, which Pyongyang denies. When we come back, police to call in organizers of Women's Day March. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Police will call in the organizers of the International Women's Day March to provide statements on the proceedings of the event, which also saw the participation of the lesbian, gay, bisexual and transgender LGBT community supporters. Deputy Inspector General of Police Tan Sri Noor Rashid Ibrahim on Monday stressed that any party that failed to inform the officer in charge of Police District OCPD that they are holding a gathering or demonstration has committed an offence under the Peaceful Assembly Act.
Ketua Polis Daerah harus dimaklumkan supaya kita dapat buat laluan alternatif atau kita dapat maklumkan kepada masyarakat adanya aktiviti-aktiviti ini supaya everybody is happy. Kita tidak mahu you buat perarakan ni mengganggu lalu lintas, mengganggu orang lain, merosakkan imej dan sebagainya. Walaupun isu tu, you kata you ada hak untuk bawa isu tu. I mean, you must respect others tu. Dalam tujuan ini, of course kita buka siasatan, kita akan ambil keterangan dan kita akan rujuk kepada AG Pejabat Hukum Negara nanti. Sama ada mereka ni dituduh ataupun tidak apabila siasatan lengkap lagi.
He said this in a press conference after witnessing the handing over ceremony for the Kedah Police Chief post at the State Police Headquarters in Alostar, Kedah. The ceremony saw Commissioner Dato' Abdul Rahim Jaffar handing over the reins to Commissioner Dato' Zainuddin Yaakob. On Saturday, hundreds of people gathered in front of Sogo Shopping Mall in Kuala Lumpur in conjunction with International Women's Day, demanding for equal rights. The participants included members of women's aid organizations and Sisters in Islam, activists, students, and various people from all across the nation. In Johor, 3 men, including 2 company owners, have been arrested in relation to the chemical waste dump in Sungai Kim Kim, which led to 79 people being treated after inhaling hazardous fumes. State Department of Environment DOE Director Dr. Muhammad Ezani Mat Saleh said the arrest was conducted in a joint operation between DOE and the police. Dr. Muhammad Ezani said the first suspect is the owner of a chemical processing factory at Kulai, while the second is the owner and a worker of a waste processing factory in Pasir Puteh. He said the suspects were aged between 40 and 50, and the first was arrested at about 7 p.m. on March 10th, while the 2 other suspects were arrested at 12:30 p.m. Monday. The case is being investigated under Section 34B of the Environmental Quality Act. This carries a fine of not more than 500,000 ringgit or up to 5 years jail upon conviction. An unemployed man was sentenced to 7 months in jail and fined 10,000 ringgit by the Kuala Lumpur Sessions Court for insulting Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, on social media. Judge Hasbullah Adam handed down the sentence to 52-year-old Muhammad Yazid Kong Abdullah, who pleaded guilty last Friday to the charge under the Communications and Multimedia Act. The accused would also have to serve an additional 2 months in jail if he could not settle the fine. Yazid was accused of making 3 Facebook posts on February 24th that insulted Islam and the Prophet. Yazid was arrested at his home on March 4th. In Sabah, an intoxicated man plowed into 3 school children with a car, killing a 10-year-old girl and severely injuring 2 others. The 3 victims, identified as Max Christie, Maxirona Mazdi and Michelle Marianne David, were said to be waiting for their transport to school at the time of the incident. The 54-year-old driver has been arrested by police to facilitate investigations, and the case is being investigated under the Road Transport Act. Meanwhile, in Sarawak, 2 women were killed and 3 men were injured in a 2-vehicle collision in Kampung Sepupuk involving a Proton Persona and a Toyota Hilux Monday morning. Investigations are being carried out to identify the cause of the incident. Also in Sarawak, a man was arrested after slicing off a grocery store owner's hand with a parang in Pekan Kabong Sunday night. During the incident, the assailant rushed into the victim's shop and attacked him with a parang, which the victim could only block with his hands, causing his left hand to be severed. The motive of the attack is yet to be determined, and the case is being investigated under the Penal Code. Over in Negeri Sembilan, a senior citizen was burnt to death when his car crashed and burst into flames in Jempol at about 10 a.m. Monday. The victim, identified as 63-year-old Felda settler Radzwan Jaklan, was believed to have lost control of the vehicle, which then skidded and fell into a small ravine before it caught fire. The remains of the victim were extricated from the vehicle and brought to Jempol Hospital for post-mortem. More to come. Black box recovered from wreckage of Ethiopian plane. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Rescue teams combing through the wreckage of the Ethiopian Airlines aircraft that crashed in Bishoftu, Ethiopia on Monday have found the plane's black box. In confirming the matter, the airline in a statement said both the cockpit voice recorder and the digital flight data recorder have been recovered from the crash site. Locating the plane's black box will help investigators understand what may have caused the crash, with early indicators showing that the plane lost contact with the control tower 6 minutes after takeoff. Retrieval efforts have been complicated at the crash site due to the area's inaccessibility and the impact with which the plane hit the ground, scattering debris across large area. The impact of the crash has created a 10-meter deep pit and is 50 meters in diameter and wreckage strewn all over the area. Due to that, authorities said excavation work would go on overnight. So far, rescuers have been able to retrieve some remains of the aircraft's engine, wheels and wings. There was no immediate indication of what caused the crash, and safety experts said it was too early to speculate, adding that most accidents are caused by a cocktail of factors. The passenger jet bound for Nairobi crashed minutes after takeoff, killing all 157 people on board. Now, the fatal crash in Ethiopia on Sunday involving an updated version of Boeing company's best-selling 737 is putting the spotlight back on the aircraft just 5 months after another deadly crash involving another brand-new model of the same type in Indonesia. This is after its safety record was questioned, as both incidents were highly unusual and had broad similarities in that they went down soon after takeoff. Officials, however, said it was too early to tell if there was any direct connection between the two accidents, but assessing that was a priority for investigators. Though the cause of the crash is not yet known, China's civil aviation regulator said on Monday that it has asked domestic airlines to suspend the commercial operations of all Boeing 737-8 planes, adding that they took the move in line with the regulator's principle of zero tolerance to safety standards. Indonesia and the Ethiopian Airlines have also followed China's announcement by grounding all of the same aircraft, while Britain's Cayman Airways suspended both of its new jets until further notice. A number of airlines across the world were carrying out safety measures on its jets. Meanwhile, back home, Putrajaya said it has not come to any immediate decision on whether or not Malaysia Airlines Berhad will continue with its purchase of the Boeing 737 MAX 8. Transport Minister Anthony Loke said the planes were supposed to be delivered by next year, but the national carrier is currently studying various options. Loke said even if Malaysia Airlines and the government want to review the purchase, they must take into consideration the various legal implications of their action. In its response, the national carrier said it has written to Boeing seeking for more technical details ahead of the delivery of its order expected in 2020. Up next in sports, Yusri Chetla resigns as Kuala Lumpur's coach. Stay with us. Welcome back. Sports football, the Super League. Yusri Chetla has announced his resignation as Kuala Lumpur Football Association KLFA head coach on Monday after failing to register a single win in the current season. Yusri said the decision was made after reaching a mutual agreement after discussions with the management of the KLFA. In the meantime, Yusri has denied that his withdrawal from the Kuala Lumpur squad was made due to the insistence of the fans due to the poor achievement of the team, which he had just taken over 13 weeks ago. The Kuala Lumpur squad is now at the bottom of the league standings after losing in 5 2019 Super League matches, including the latest against Selangor, which saw Kuala Lumpur losing 2 2-3. Yusri's position is temporarily taken over by KL assistant coach Chong Yi Fat. Before we leave, let's take a look at the world's best and most adventurous windsurfers as they battle in extremely stormy conditions at the Megaroti Beach in Ireland in the latest Red Bull Storm Chase. I'm Raymond Goh. Thank you for your company.